Thank you again for joining me for the Health and Wellness and Safety online discussion this evening. Today we're going to go over nationally what's happening around the climate, around health, wellness, and safety, and to give you a real sense of why PCAD is doing some of the things that it's doing in regards to health, wellness, and safety. Then I'll go more specifically into information we share with families and students, a review of Title IX, and then our city partners as well that we work with to enhance the health, wellness, and safety of our students. Then I'll go specifically into the PCAD and Lancaster physical and mental health resources in regards to all the information that I've discussed with you. And then I'll review our U Studio programming, which is our umbrella programming for health and wellness. So first, I really want to talk about what's happening nationally on college campuses. Alcohol and drug use. We really keep a close eye on this. Nationally, statistics show that alcohol use is going down in college-age students, definitely over the past 20 years. Doesn't mean to say that alcohol use nor abuse is not happening. It just means that it's decreasing, and we can see this same trend in our climate survey data, which I'll talk more about in a little bit as it relates specifically to PCAD students. I have another infographic here for you about the use of alcohol. And then binge drinking still is a concern, where for women there are 4 drinks, and for men it's 5 drinks per sitting, so it's a 2-hour, over 2 hours, and typically also male college students are reporting up to 9 drinks per sitting. So this is definitely still an issue, and we're always looking for ways to give students healthy alternatives to drinking and drug use. And for drug use, we're also seeing an increase with the use of marijuana nationally. For recreational use, but with the opioid epidemic, we're also looking at that information closely, and because it's affecting every city, every community in this country, so that is something that we're watching as well. Staying physically fit. We know that when students eat well and that they are staying physically fit, they excel in the classroom. That's not new research. So we are trying to find ways to engage students and give them the tools so that they can eat better and stay active in the way that suits them best, so that they can be creative and innovative and learn well in and outside of the classroom. In regards to health insurance, PCAD does not offer its own health insurance plan for students. That's something that we're looking into, but right now we do not offer a health insurance plan for our students as we're small, so offering an affordable healthcare plan is not something that's that we've been able to do in the past. So students luckily can right now stay on their parents' insurance until the age of 26. So we've been encouraging students to have a conversation with their family, discuss insurance, discuss healthcare when they come to college, when they come to PCAD. Do they have their prescription cards, the health insurance cards, dental, and so forth. And later on, I'll go over what some of the resources are in the city for students to use in regards to physical health and affordability as well. And right now, students do also have access to the ACA. So students have navigated that and gotten themselves health insurance as well. In regards to vaccinations, the colleges and universities, have different policies around this. Some require them and some do not. PCAD does not require vaccinations, but we highly recommend them. I've listed 4 here. Meningitis, especially if your student is living with other college students, we highly recommend the meningitis vaccine. Tdap, which is pertussis, which is like whooping cough, tetanus, and diphtheria. HPV, which is the hepatitis V vaccine, and the flu. And my little infographic, or my little graphic here, also shows the chickenpox booster. That's not commonly recommended, but that is definitely something that students can get as well. We recommend them, but this is definitely a conversation you want to have as a family and with your physician to see if this is the right course of action for you. Around mental health, this is an area that we really focus a lot on. Basics or an annual survey from the Association for University of College Counseling Center Directors. Their findings report that the top 2 presenters in their counseling centers that students are coming in with are anxiety and depression. Before this year, depression was the number 1, followed by anxiety, so they saw a flip in 2013. So we really focus on this, and why is this the case? So when students are coming to college, they're experiencing new stressors. The rigor of courses are going to be different from high school. Their expectations, they're living on their own typically for the first time. There's a lot of new competition. They might be used to being number 1, especially for art students who have been in some smaller art classes, and now here they are at a college that's focused on art and design where everyone's coming together. Cross-cultural issues. Their students are coming from all over the United States and beyond, from all different walks of life, from different viewpoints. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate differences? How do you appreciate similarities? So that could be a stressor. Family challenges, whether you're commuting or not, that can present some challenges for students. Finances can be a lot of concern for students. Interpersonal connections, the number 1 concern of college students is making friends. So how do you develop friendships? How do you develop a support unit around yourself? And this concept of persistence, I know there's like grit is like the word of the day, but really it's about persistence. So I may be used to getting A's, but now I'm in an environment that's a little bit tougher, so maybe I'm getting a B. And I'm disappointed in myself, or this project didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. How do I learn from my mistakes? How do I learn in my environment, pick myself back up, and move forward? So that's something that we work with students on, as well as really managing those expectations and working on persistence. And that's where we could really use your support as parents and family members, is encouraging your student to learn and move forward when the challenges are presenting themselves. Also around today's climate, we find that students, when they set realistic goals for themselves, when they take a moment to de-stress, sometimes, especially first-year students, they're like, I have to do work, I have to do work, I have to practice, I have to do this. They don't take time to smell the roses per se. They don't take time to de-stress. They don't take time to take a walk. They're not eating right. They are just focused really on just doing all this work. So taking those moments to take care of themselves is really important. Time management plays into that. So planning out all their projects. They're going to have 5 courses in the fall and 5 courses in the spring. Planning out their projects, planning out when they have tests, planning out when they need to study, planning out when they have their free time, when they can de-stress, and not waiting till the last minute is really important. I do have here practice, practice, practice. So your students love art. They've been doing art for a very long time, and now they're doing it for a career. That's a definite shift. So they're going to need to practice. They have a lot of time in the studio to practice, but they're going to be doing their homework as well. So really continuing to work on their craft and challenging themselves to grow as artists. Just like a great violinist needs to practice the violin many hours a day, so does an artist. They need not practice the violin, but they need to practice their craft. So that's really important. Setting priorities, what's really important to your student. Physical wellness, again, I mentioned making time to take care of themselves, and then creating that support unit around them, creating those relationships with students, faculty, and staff, and of course you and their friends from home is incredibly important to their success. Specifically around safety, nationally and internationally, this is an interesting time. There's a lot to pay attention to. There's a lot of safety concerns. We're watching as well. We're connecting. We're putting policies, procedures, and educating students about their resources, making them aware of how to react in certain situations. One way we do that, we have during orientation the safety presentation where we bring in the Lancaster City Police and Lancaster City Alliance, so I'll talk to you about in a little bit. We go over basic safety information, and we also do an active shooter training. Last year was the first time we did this, but in this day and age, we want to make sure that students, again, have the awareness of what to do if, God forbid, somebody comes into the building. They know how to get out of the building. They know how to react and keep themselves safe. Fire safety, I mentioned this because a lot of students are living in apartments on their own for the first time. So are there fire extinguishers? Where are the fire alarms? How do you exit the building if there is an incident? All of those things are really important for students to know regarding fire safety. Do they have the appropriate fire extinguishers, one for the kitchen and one for other rooms in the home? Another area that we really focus on is sexual assault and violence prevention, awareness, resources, empowering students to take care of themselves and one another. Nationally, this has been a big discussion, especially as it relates to colleges and universities. So this is something that we read about, we research about, that we look for best practices around, and I'll talk to you more about that, what we do specifically in a little bit. And then just general safety information. We're watching social media. We're watching city and other organizations' information to make sure that we're reporting information to students in a timely manner regarding their safety and security. So some specific safety resources and reports that we share with students and families. Every year the college publishes excuse me, the annual safety and security report. This is a graphic from our 2016 report. The 2017 report will come out but before October 1st, which is the deadline we have to post it. Excuse me. This comes from a series of information from Title IX and the Clery Act. The Clery Act comes from Jean Clery. Back in the 1980s, Jean Clery was a student at Lehigh University, and during this time there was a man going around campus and unfortunately raping several women. Well, the university did not report this to the campus community, so one night Jean went to sleep in her residence hall, opened her window. Her residence hall room was on the first floor. This man crawled in through her window, raped her, and murdered her. Very morbid. But from this, the Clery family said, we don't want this to happen to anybody else. As a result, we have the Clery Act, which is a federal law that requires colleges and universities to report crime on campus and our efforts to improve campus safety, and we have to do so in a timely manner. So I'm going to talk about how we do that in a minute, but I also wanted to note that I do have the link to the annual safety and security report on the slide. So crime statistics are reported for the previous academic year. So this coming year we'll report crime statistics from the years 2013 through the year 2016 for the year previous. We're only reporting crime also that relates to areas or properties that we control. We're not reporting crime for the city of Lancaster. We're reporting crime for areas, buildings, properties that we control. So the campus is located at the address of 202 and 204 North Prince Street. The Art Garden, which is across the street from the college, is 47 West Chestnut Street. 30 to 40 West King Street is Steinman Lofts. And then we control some specific apartments in Stevens House Condominiums, which is down the street from Steinman Lofts. So those are the properties we control. So what you'll see here is that there are a lot of zeros. That's because crime has not been reported based on those specific properties. Again, this is not crime that's happening in the city of Lancaster. This is crime happening within those specific properties and the areas around those properties. And we work closely with the Lancaster City Police to make sure our statistics are correct for the areas surrounding the building. And then we keep track of any crime reports that happen in the building. So I just wanted to describe that or give you that information so you understood what you were looking at based on our reporting. Students can also report any concerning behavior or any crime to any PCA&D faculty or staff member. That PCA&D faculty or staff member will then either come and share that information one with myself and two other individuals I'll mention in a minute, or they'll direct the student to come talk with us directly. So some of the reporting agents for the college are myself, Dan Freiler, who is the director of our physical plant, director of facilities, and then Jane Higginbotham, the director of student life and housing, who has been working with many of your students in regards to housing already. Also, Clery requires us to do timely notifications and emergency notifications. So all students immediately are enrolled in the RAVE text alert system. The RAVE text alert system lets students know in that moment, in that time, if there's an emergency on campus or around campus. It will be sent to their phone, a text to their phone, as well as to their email. So I've been telling students in the student version of this presentation to go into their My PCA&D account, the student information system, and to make sure that their phone number and their address are correct in My PCA&D, because that's where we're pulling all the phone numbers for. There will be a test of the system in September. So if your student gets an email and not a text, they'll know that their phone number is not correct in our system and that they need to update it, and there'll be instructions in that email how to update their phone number. And with the text alerts, so far PCAD's really used them to announce inclement weather issues, so cancellation of classes, a pipe burst on the 4th floor, don't go to that floor. Once I had to use it last year because there was some police action about 4 blocks from campus, and it was during the lunch hour, and we thought students might be walking through that area on the way back to campus. So we sent out a RAVE text alert letting people know to stay away from that area, but that's really the only safety RAVE that we've had to send out so far. I will also send out timely notifications, and I do send out a couple of those each year. Usually it's we're seeing reports about robberies maybe happening in certain areas of the city, or if there's a theft of items from a car, we'll send out information to students saying, hey, this is happening in this particular area. If you're living in this area, you're walking through this area, please be aware of this. Here are some safety tips for you as well. So we will send those out because we are watching those safety reports from the city. We also do work with victim support. So if any student goes through any traumatic issue, we have a lot of resources around the college to support that student. So just wanted to make you aware of that as well. Having said that, we're going to go into Title IX. I'm sure you all have seen in the news a lot of information about Title IX, and then again around colleges and universities. So typically Title IX was looked at like, do you have the same number of women's sports teams as you do the same for men's sports teams? But in 2012, a higher education professional wrote to the Department of Education and said, hey, Title IX is much more than just equality of men's and women's sports. It's about sex equality in all facets of education. So from this came a lot of legislation around colleges and universities doing a better job around sexual harassment, sexual violence, stalking, dating and intimate partner violence, and really a lot more around prevention of that and holding students accountable. So within this PCA&D Annual Safety and Security Report, you'll find a lot of information around those specific areas. So I'm the Title IX coordinator for students. That means that kind of all roads lead to me around those particular areas. So if a student does report, the student will come and talk with me, and I will share resources. We'll discuss next steps. And I do any investigation. If it is an assault between 2 PCA&D students, I do an investigation. And then if that investigation leads to information that will lead us to a conduct process, I would facilitate that as well. Definitions are also in our report. What is consent? How do we define that? What is bystander intervention? What are our expectations around our PCA&D community members about being good bystanders? Sexual assault, violence, domestic violence, retaliation between students, and sexual harassment. We also give students information about how, if something does happen to you or a friend, how do you get medical care? What do you have to think about when you report an incident to the police? Do you want to report that incident to the police? How do you report an incident to campus officials? And then confidentiality. I do want to say that if a PCAD student reports a sexual assault or violence or stalking or domestic violence incident or harassment to a PCAD staff member or faculty member, they need to report that information to me by law. So confidentiality meaning that they're not going to share it with anybody else. They're going to come directly to me, but they have to share it with me by law. So some students can get upset sometimes thinking that trust has been broken, but by law, they have to report it to me, and they are trained to do that as well. So I just wanted to make that clear to you as well. And then we do have a very fair and equitable conduct process for our PCAD students, even with issues beyond the sexual assault, violence, harassment, domestic violence, even for theft or inappropriate use of your print lab privileges. So there's a full diagram of the conduct process as well. The safety and security report also includes information on drug and alcohol, our policies, resources. So if there is substance abuse happening, how can a student get help? Who can they call? Who can they talk to? Same thing with physical and mental health resources. We have a lot of the hospitals in the area, urgent care, mental health, where they can go to seek out mental health resources, crisis intervention, suicide prevention hotline, all of that great resource information. And then I mentioned earlier that our climate survey, we typically do this on an annual basis, and what we're looking at is what is the climate around the use of alcohol and drugs with our students? What is their experience with mental health? What are they experiencing? How are they seeing bystander intervention? What are they likely to do in certain situations? What is our climate around sexual assault? And then are students aware of the resources and services that we have on campus and in the city? So we're looking at that information. In fact, I'm meeting with a group of professionals in a couple weeks to review all this data and make plans for how we're going to enhance the health and wellness of our community. So we really look at this data closely and look to better our community as a result of it. Here's the City of Lancaster Police. They're just right across the street from us. They have all their information here. They are excellent about posting timely crime information, like as it's happening, on their Facebook and Twitter. So if you follow them on Facebook or on Twitter, they're excellent about posting about what's happening. So I'd recommend that you follow them in some capacity, whether you have Facebook or Twitter. The Crime Watch is an interactive map of different types of crime that are happening in the city and where it's happening. So they have little dots, different colors for different types of crimes. So you can take a look at that and see what is happening in the city. So I've included that website for you as well. The Lancaster City Alliance is a city organization that does a lot of amazing things, but one thing that they do is they have the Safety Coalition. So it is a group of colleges, universities in the area, nonprofits, businesses that all work together to create a safe environment for the entire Lancaster City community. One thing that they do is they have a bike patrol, and I've included the website here where you can see the map of where the bike patrol is located, where they're riding, and then at what times. They are the eyes and ears on the ground for the police. So any student can go up to them. They are wearing red shirts with the Lancaster City Alliance logo on them, and report any concerns that they may have. For students living in Steinman Lofts, there's a bike patrol that goes down that street frequently, so that's a great resource for the Steinman Lofts students. Lancaster is also one of the most populated cities that have the most cameras, like security cameras in the city. So they have like a bank of screens, and there's people watching to see if they can prevent any crime from happening, or the action is recorded so the police can go back and view it and see if they can capture the perpetrators. So that is something that Lancaster City has as well. An app that several students have been using is called Companion. It allows students to walk from one location to another and have a third party kind of watch them on their journey. So to make sure that they get home or to campus safely. It also allows the student to note if they feel like they're in an emergency or that they feel nervous. The third party can hop on and help out as well. So that's an app that many parents and students have been using. I also want to talk a little bit about transportation in the city. So the Lancaster Parking Authority oversees all of the city parking. So their website is there. There's a lot of street parking. They do have kiosks where you can pay instead of meters. And they also have an app that you can add money to your account versus having to go out and pay at the kiosk again. So that's really nice. The Water Street Garage is where most of our students park that commute specifically, or keep their car around campus. And that's right behind the college. And then Central Parking is the main parking garage that the Steinman Lofts students use because it's right next to the Steinman Lofts. The Lancaster train station is about 8 blocks from campus, and they welcome Amtrak trains from Harrisburg and from Philadelphia. The Red Rose Transit is the public transportation system. I included the web link there for you. Route 1 and Route 3 are the routes that come to PCA&D. They also have a great app that you can see where your particular bus is. So if it's raining or snowing and you don't want to stand outside, you can wait inside, and then as you see your bus approaching, you can run outside and grab it. And they do have student discounts as well. On campus specifically, we do have a security guard in the PCA&D main lobby. Mike is the security guard during the day, and Candy and Don are at night. We only allow students to go through the front door. They need their ID at all times to access the main building, and they'll get their student ID at orientation. We have the Ride Home program. And I included the link here for you to read more about it. But really, it's a free ride home within the city of Lancaster. And starting at 6:45, a student can go down to the guard and say, hey, I need a taxi. I will go down about 30 minutes before the student needs the taxi. The guard will call the taxi. The student will hang out and wait for the taxi and then hop in and go home, and it's totally free. Our building hours, I've listed there. Students can also view the building hours and the institutional calendar, which has a lot of important dates on it for them. Through their PCA&D email, there is a calendar system, and if they check the building hours calendar or the institutional calendar, all those dates will pop up on that calendar, so they can view all that information, and it's all updated all the time. Goodness. For specifically PCA&D healthcare, we talked a little bit about healthcare. So again, have that conversation with your student about how you're going to approach that. Vaccinations, again, highly recommended but not required. Hospitals and healthcare facilities. Lancaster General Hospital System is the main hospital system in Lancaster, and they have just partnered with Penn Medicine, so I've included their website there. They just opened a new urgent care that's about 3 blocks from PCA&D's campus. They're open from 5:15 p.m. till 1 a.m. That's because during the day a family practice is there. But our students love it, so they can make an appointment online, go right at 5:15 or 5:30, get right in there. So if they have bronchitis or the flu or just a really bad cold, they can get seen quickly by a doctor or a physician assistant. For students that need a doctor for more like continual care, the Southeast Medical Health Services, I've included their website here, is on Water Street, which is about right behind the college, just 2 blocks down. They have a 2-month wait right now for new patients, but once you get in there, you'll be able to make more frequent appointments. So students that have allergies, students that need more continual care, I recommend that they contact Southeast Medical Health Services. And then there's various CVS Minute clinics around town as well. So mental health, PCA&D has 2 counselors that we have on retainer, Pam and Mike, and your students will meet them at orientation. The first 3 to 4 individual counseling sessions are free. After that, the counselor will work with the student to either continue their sessions. If they find that they don't need to continue, that's great. Or they'll work with them to continue with them, but on their health insurance, or they'll refer them to another counselor based on what's happening, maybe even a psychiatrist or psychologist. This resets every year, so sometimes I have students that meet with the counselors 3 to 4 times during the year. They come back and then start over and then meet with them 3 or 4 more times just to have like a continual conversation with them. And the counselors are amazing and they really get to know the students. Another way that the counselors have been engaging with the students is we host a mental health and wellness group called Lyceum. It's also it's totally free. They meet once a week, and it's a group of about 12 to 15 students that just meet to talk about some of the challenges that they're facing. And many of the college students, as you can see from the national data, are experiencing similar challenges around anxiety or depression or other challenges that they may be having. So the counselors are there to facilitate that, but they also have this peer group that they can also then lean on for support and understanding as well. The YWCA is another great resource. They have a sexual assault prevention and counseling group, and we work with them closely around prevention. The LGBT-friendly counseling, we have a great provider in the area that's very LGBT-friendly, especially when our students are transitioning or transgender. We have a great group that works with them. And then our suicide prevention, Lancaster has a coalition around suicide prevention, so we're involved with them as well. So Youth Studio, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, is our umbrella programming for health and wellness. So we have a little picture here of an event that we were hosting. And then some of the examples of the events that we've had over the past year. This picture here is a group of students with 2 dance movement therapists, and they're going, this is healthy forms of expression. So they're going through movements to say, like, how do you feel when you're stressed? What does your body feel like? What does your body feel like when you're de-stressed? What does this look like when you're stressed? What do other people see? What do you see? What are some ways that you can use your body then to de-stress? So the therapists were amazing, and the students loved it. We have the Art of Healthy Relationships. That's where we work with the YWCA, as well as the Bystander Intervention workshop there. With healthy relationships, they talk about all kinds of relationships, but they also focus on intimate relationships. And then that moves into what is consent? What happens when you have an argument? How do you de-escalate that? We also then talk about sexual assault and violence and what to do in those situations. One thing we also focused on is the heroin epidemic, especially among young adults, not necessarily college students, but that particular age group. So 2 ways we've been trying to do that in some different ways, because typically bringing in a speaker saying don't do drugs isn't is helpful for our students. So we try to bring the information to them in unique ways. So we brought in a young lady for a recovery story, and she is a student at Millersville University, and I think that she graduates next year. She's a recovering heroin addict, and she told her story. She's their age. She suffered from anxiety, and she talked about what led her to use heroin, what happened when she was using heroin, and what led her to recovery, and how she works within her life now while she is still in recovery. So the students really appreciated her sharing her story. And we also, at the bottom there, thoughts from a design activist. We brought in an artist. His name's Adam, who's actually a graduate of PCA&D, and he lives not too far away. And his brother died from a heroin overdose, and he's also an emergency room crisis counselor. So he saw the effects of the heroin epidemic on people and their families. And so he wanted to use his art as a way to create social change. So he created, he's a printer, so he created all these posters and used his graphic design to create them and plastered them all over his community, really starting a dialogue about how communities are reacting, how families are experiencing this, how people are experiencing this epidemic, and really created some great social change in his community. So not only did students learn about the heroin epidemic and what it does to people and their families, but they also learned about how they can use their art to create positive social change. So that was another great workshop that we did. And then Pet Palooza is the favorite workshop or event that we do for U Studio. We work with a pet therapy group, and right before finals, they get to cuddle with puppies and kitties and roll over the floor with them, and they love it. And I always get emails from professors saying, thank you for doing this because the students are so focused and they're so happy. So I think the students would have us have Pet Palooza every day. But that is the most favorite event for U Studio. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to see if you have any questions. I'll turn on your mics. While I do that, I just want to mention at the bottom there is the website for orientation. Your students will get information on Monday and how to register and direct them to this website as well. But the tentative schedules are up and other important information, so you can go check that out when you're ready. So with that, if you have any questions, your mics are on, so if you click at the mic icon at the top of the page, it should turn green, or you can chat in your question on the bottom right-hand side. Do we require a physical? No, we do not require a physical, so you're clear there. Good question, though. Oh, great. Thanks, Kevin. We have the two Kevins on today. How do we notify parents of an emergency on campus? That's a very good question. I believe that parents have the ability just to sign up for the RAVE text alert system as well. So you would get a text and an email if there were any emergencies on campus. We would also send out an official communication to families as well regarding any large emergencies so that families were aware, because we look at you as another resource for your students. So we would definitely send out information both ways. Well, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we're looking forward to Simon Loft's move-in as well. I look forward to seeing you. Crime statistics for the city of Lancaster. Good question, Stacy. I'm going to go back a couple slides. Let's see. No. Maybe here. So the City of Lancaster Police Department, their website has the crime statistics on there, so you can go check that out and view the information there. And again, they have that great map, so you can see what crime's been happening in the area as well. I look on there myself. Great. I'm glad you found the information helpful, and we're going to build on this during orientation as well. And thank you again for coming tonight, and we did record this, so